welcome to the Fantasy Foot Bros Podcast, brought to you by the Shell Corporation, with your host and the scientist behind Nav, the 3-time winning owner of The Walking Dead, Nick Young, and the most jacked fantasy owner to ever play the game, given everything he's got, Tim Young. Now, let's get into some fantasy talk. Hello and welcome into episode 3 of the Fantasy Foot Bros Podcast. Today, we talk about Rose Red football team. So, first things first, Cam Newton. What are your thoughts on him versus Mac Jones this year? That's the big talking point coming out of the draft. Is Cam Newton going to give us the elite start that he gave us last year?
Maybe. I don't know. Probably not. I hear talk already that Mac Jones is impressing in camp, and if that's the case, what do they need Cam starting for? I could very well see them going right to Mac Jones right from game one. That's right now. Cam Newton's still the projected starter, but certainly I don't think you can keep him with Mac Jones over his shoulder there. It won't take much for Cam to lose that job. He's got him Mac Jones breathing down his neck there. Won't be long.
Yeah, I think he gets the start for the season. I think as the veteran coming in, I think he's going to be given that opportunity. I don't think the Patriots are going to shy away from him right out of the gate. But I do think he's going to lose his job probably come the bye week. So when they transition, I think that's when you're going to see the switch made. But I think they're going to give Mac Jones some time to kind of get more familiar with the offense. It's a complicated playbook. I mean, we saw last year with Cam Newton not being able to pick it up, and he got more rushing touchdowns than he did passing. So he was relying on his legs to do it because he didn't feel confident after the first look.
Maybe. That's also just kind of typical of Cam Newton and his arm falling off. The injuries have piled up and doesn't have the same arm that he did.
It could be. But still, it's something that I think that the Patriots are going to give him the opportunity to get the start. I don't think at the third round keeper value that it's worth it there at all. I wouldn't pick him if I was drafting him myself until 10, maybe, until the 10th round.
Yeah, he's deep in the draft for sure.
So I think he's definitely off the board.
Flex. Yeah,
definitely off the board this year for me.
And he'll have no keeper value beyond this year. I'd imagine that 100% 2022 Mac Jones is starter.
And then he's a journeyman at that point.
Yep. Now, before we got to that first thing, the real first thing is I want to compliment Laura Bryant, our brand new coach last year, sharing a team with Steve, who fell off the planet in the league. So she jumped in and took over, and while her record doesn't show it, she did a good job managing the team. She really jumped in as a brand new player really well, and happy to be bringing her back this year with her sole control of that team.
I agree. I mean, I thought she did a really good job last year of managing the trades, active on free agency, had some good pickups, picking up Fulgham when he was hot with the Eagles, and just being aware of the different players and knowing their values for trade negotiations. I thought she did a really good job of setting herself up for this year, even with the down year last year. So I agree. Happy to have her back, and curious to see what she does with this year and her limited keeper roster. There's not a ton of players that I feel like are really going to shine for.
That's interesting that you say that, because I think that she has a tough decision with probably 3 pretty good keepers.
Really?
Yeah.
I got it to 2, and those 2, I said, you know what, these are definitely the ones. I don't see an argument for any others. So give me your fringe one.
Well, A.J. Brown could be the fringe one for me. I know. You're going to be surprised by
Come
that.
on.
So...
Don't just say stuff for media attention.
Shock value. That's
Oh, first take. All right,
yep.
Skip Bayless, what do you
Clickbait.
got?
Don't keep AJ Brown.
Okay, there it is, right on the title screen. So why are we not keeping A.J. Brown?
Well, it's a run-heavy offense. It has been, and Derrick Henry will continue to do that. It's no secret that I'm not a big believer in Ryan Tannehill. The presence of Julio Jones there eats up some targets. A.J. Brown will still get his. I'm not saying that he's not going to be top 10 receiver this year. But I think that with her early draft picks and where my NAV score has him, he's still really valuable. It's somewhere between 80 and 100 on my NAV score, which is a pretty good range. But right now his ADP, his average draft position, is pretty in flux. After the Julio trade, after Julio went to Tennessee, his ADP took an immediate hit, and it's kind of been recovering. And if we see that continue to rise through August, then it's quite possible he's the most valuable keeper according to my NAV. But right now he is the least.
I mean, you're getting a number one receiver in the 4th round.
Yes.
And even with Julio in there, that helps him.
And she has a late 4th round pick too.
It helps him get open. You're taking double teams away. You're spreading the field out. You're bringing another man in the box for that run-heavy defense or run-heavy offense. And I think Derrick Henry is going to take a step back this year. No running back has the legs to do 3 back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons.
Kept saying that year after year. It's the 3rd year in a row now that I'll be saying that. And yes, one day the wheels are going to fall off, but
with
this year? Yeah.
Tannehill at his peak, you have 2 elite receivers, you have a decent tight end. I mean, you're going to be able to spread the ball around in the passing game, and it's going to be open because everyone's looking for that run. I don't see how you don't take a top 12 receiver at a guaranteed 4th round value. If he's the fringe guy, I don't even know who the other 2 are that you would consider.
All right, so
keeping.
who's your other one? You got A.J. Brown, and who's your other one now?
My guaranteed one is J.K. Dobbins. That one I feel like you're getting at the 6th round value when it's a 3rd round pick. I mean, I'm putting him in there with Austin Eckler, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, he's right in there in a run-heavy offense where he's the primary back now. I mean, he's not going to get the half PPR points. He's not going to get a lot of reps there.
Is he the primary back?
Who else?
Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Is Lamar Jackson the primary back? And that's, if you got a 1,000-yard rusher from your quarterback and you got another guy in Gus Edwards who's going to get the ball occasionally, is he going to put up running back number 1 kind of numbers? Is he more of an RB2 kind of guy?
I think he's definitely an RB2 kind of guy. I don't think he's your RB1, but I don't know if the other guys that you're getting in that 6th round that you're picking him at are anything more than that.
It's a great keeper value for sure. I'm not saying don't keep J.K. Dobbins.
But what's the NAV value on J.K. Dobbins? Because that has to be higher than A.J. Brown.
It is, yeah. So right now I have him at 112.
Okay. And is that the highest one of her players, or is there someone else?
It's someone else.
All right, who's this last person that you're going to try and talk me in? And if you say Myles Gaskin, I'm going to kick you in the shins.
Myles Gaskin in the 11th.
No. Why?
He's the starting running back in Miami.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's his backfield. He showed enough last year that he's going to put up some points. In the 11th round, it's an amazing value on him. He's not much more valuable than Dobbins. He's at 121 compared to Dobbins 112. That's why I have those 2 running backs, and now you're locked down at running back and can go another direction with your first couple picks.
So I could see the argument of Gaskins over Dobbins, but you can't give up a nearly guaranteed. If they play all 17 games, okay, or 16 games, or 16. I can't keep track of it. If they play all the games, A.J. Brown's going to be a top 24 wide receiver for you. Guaranteed starter all year. You can't get that same guarantee from Gaskins. I mean, yes, you're getting them at an 11th round value, and who else you're going to get
Right, I
at
was
that?
going to say, he'll be, top 30 back. I mean, he may well be a top 24 back. I don't want to say that he won't be.
His ceiling is top, running back 18?
Probably.
Okay.
Sure.
But his floor, running back 50, 60, I mean, he could fall off very easily. He doesn't have a ton of experience. The Dolphins' offense doesn't move the ball particularly well. I know Tua's in his year 2, and that's a huge question mark for me too. So I don't have the confidence in keeping Gaskins. If I had Dobbins,
Gaskin in the 11th, plus the future value of, if it kept next year at a 9th. I mean, if he is the back that he showed last year, if he is capable of controlling that backfield,
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's a tough call, and I don't know who I would pick in that position. I love, the talent of A.J. Brown there, and it's tough to throw a stud player that you can keep in the 4th round back to the pool. And maybe that's a completely wrong decision. But, my NAV score has the 2 running backs.
So if you don't keep A.J. Brown, where do you think he's getting drafted then? When do you pick him up?
So I have him around wide receiver 7 or 8, and 2 of those guys above him are likely being kept. So it puts him into 5 or 6, 5th or 6th receiver off the board. So late 2nd, early 3rd round.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I could see him being a top 5 receiver. I think that's a fair estimate. I would do, mid-2nd is where I'd probably place him at. I'm very high on the Titans offense and A.J. Brown. I think Julio just adds a whole nother dimension that's going to open up the field tremendously. So it'll be interesting to see the way that plays out. But, Laura, you have a tough decision ahead. Now, as far as some other players that she could keep, Nyheim Hines, T. Higgins, both of them, I kind of tossed up the idea of where their value would fall. Not enough to where it would be worth it. I think Nyheim Hines with Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, Marlon Mack coming back. Granted, it's coming back from an Achilles, so I don't think he's going to be great.
No, it's a crowded backfield now. He's the pass catching option there, so he'll have some games where he puts up points, but terribly inconsistent and not somebody that I'd keep.
What about T. Higgins?
Yeah, T. Higgins, I was interested to see that he scored a 45 on my NAV there, which is a bit higher than I would have pegged him. I wouldn't have guessed that his score was quite that high. It's still not worth keeping now. Jamar Chase being drafted by the Bengals really kills his value, really eats into his value. Tyler Boyd is still there, super consistent option. Now, Burrow is going to progress this year. You got to think that he'll take a step forward and that the offense can support multiple weapons. But I don't know that there's going to be enough for T. Higgins there, especially compared to her other keeper options.
So looking in the future for T. Higgins and the Bengals offense, you have the choice at Jamar Chase in the 6th round or T. Higgins at the 7th. Do you take Chase? Are you taking Chase over Higgins in general?
I would take Chase over Higgins in general, yes. Yeah.
So let's move that up to 5th round for Chase. So you're using a 5th round pick on him or a 7th for Higgins. Are you going Chase still, or?
No, I think that's too high for me to jump onto Chase.
I agree. I don't think a rookie receiver you take that high.
I'd avoid them both at that price. Yeah,
I agree. So as far as her outlook on the season, what do you think she ends up for the year? Is it better than last year? Worse than last year? How do you think it plays out?
Better than last year for sure. And a tough call. I don't know. It's a very tough division that she's in.
It is.
With the teams that we've reviewed, Ed, Brian Zerbel, and coming up here, Eddie next show. It's going to be a real tough division. I do think that she's going to be on the outside looking in. If only 2 teams from that division go into the playoffs. But based on our setup with 3 wild card teams across the league, it could be totally possible that there's 1 division winner and 2 other playoff teams from this division. This would be the one to do it, I believe, and she could be, one of those wild card teams that sneaks in.
Well, you've been pretty generous to each person in this division so far. You said they all have a chance to, winning the division and all that.
They do.
Sure.
Mathematically, they're all,
Yeah, sure. They're all in it. They all could win it. But who are you putting at the bottom of the barrel there?
Sure. So right now it's going to be Eddie for me.
Oh, okay. So we have a little flip here.
We'll talk more about him next show, but I love one of his keepers, and I think unless he makes some moves, he's going to be relegated to middling status. He's going to up against the division teams that he faces, and I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be tough for him to come out of that division on top, for sure. I
agree. I think there's going to be a lot of trades. It will be interesting to see the first trade that Ed and Laura make and the kind of collusion that we accuse them of.
Absolutely.
I can't wait for that. So just be prepared.
Just in case anybody missed that in the poll, the restrictions on Ed and Laura's trading has been removed this year.
No more.
They are allowed to trade freely with each other.
So that we opened up the borders to that. Can't wait to see the first trade right out of the gate. Probably on draft night. Maybe they'll come up. Maybe they have a whole draft day thing set up, and it's going to be this whole orchestrated ordeal. And so I'll be curious to see how that plays out. But I think Laura, as I've been saying, is going to end up at the bottom of the list there. And I hope she proves me wrong. That's just where I have her placed. Anything else before we wrap it up for the day?
No. Well, if she does end up keeping Dobbins and Gaskins, which I do think is unlikely, I think that Brown does make one of her keepers. But if she does keep those 2, it's going to be a real interesting decision for her at the 3rd overall pick, whether she goes running back there with Dalvin Cook or Derrick Henry if he's in the pool, or if she grabs the second best quarterback off the top of the cheat sheet there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who you're going to have available. Josh Allen probably isn't going to be there. You have
probably not. No, it's going to be
Kamara or Cook.
Yeah, Kamara, Cook,
Barkley,
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. It's on the market.
Mm.
So if anybody wants to keep him at a first-round value, come talk to me. You can. He's up for trade.
Otherwise, he may be going number 3 overall.
Yep. You've heard it here first. Laura's picking Kyler Murray at 3rd. If you want him, claim him now by contacting the Timmy Triceps on Timmy Titans. I think that's about it for us. Thanks for joining us again today, and see you next week.